US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has now come out and hailed Prime Minister Modi's leadership. India's extraordinary success story is the talk of the town, is what the US Secretary of State has now come out and said. He was speaking at the World Economic Forum when he spoke about the ties between the two countries and India being the bright spot, especially as far as India's economy is concerned. Abhishek Jha, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details now. Abhishek, Antony Blinken there going on to speak of the success story of India, especially as far as economy goes. He is in Davos as we speak, also talking of the ties between the two countries under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi.
Well, we have seen under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, US-India ties have come, a lot of closeness has been there. They have instituted mechanism to have more collaboration in new and emerging technologies. We have seen certain critical technologies also being transferred to India. India, on its part, has emerged as one of the fastest growing economy in the world. While the world economies, they have suffered through the pandemic and then the supply chain disruption and Russia-Ukraine conflict and a lot of geopolitical and geoeconomic issues. Indian economy has proved its resilience, though not that strongly, but comparatively in the world, related to the world, the economy has performed a lot better. About 7% of growth rate is something that the world is not hearing in any other part of the world, and that has attracted a lot of investment from across the world to the Indian cities. And we just had this vibrant Gujarat summit where the leaders from across the world, the business leaders from across the world, expressed their confidence in the Indian economy and its potential to grow and benefit. So that is the kind of a perspective probably Secretary Blinken is trying to share when he's talking about India-US ties also, because with the growing economic potential of India, USA and its many private companies from USA who have tried to invest in India, they have also benefited from the success story of India in the last 10 years.
Absolutely. Stay on with me, Ravinder Sachdev, analyst joining us now on this broadcast to put this in perspective for us. The ties between India and the United States are much cherished. That's something that the leaders of both those countries have often been speaking of. Now we have Antony Blinken go on to talk about India's success story, and it's interesting because he also talks about democracy and human rights when he talks about relationship between the two countries.
Yes, certainly it is. The U.S. Recognizes where India is coming from and now where India is going to and the trajectory at which India is. And the U.S. cannot afford to, have relations which are not at the best of the possibility. So U.S. very much, and it's recognizing what he's saying. It's not only Blinken. I think a lot of world leaders have been saying where India and Prime Minister Modi's leadership is going. And it has been shown also, like, for example, in the G20, India managed to, bring together a consensus statement. So Blinken saying what he is saying is, I think, definitely a welcome step. It's always helpful to, hear them reinforcing the positivity in US-India relations.
And speaking of India's success story, in the post-COVID era that we now live in, the kind of economic downturn that big economies have also seen, India has remained a bright spot. That is also something that a lot of the world powers are banking on. That is something that Antony Blinken also spoke of.
Oh, yes, absolutely. India being, essentially, we are the largest population in the world. And if such a large country moves with the economic growth that is expected, even if let's say 7%, that's a huge momentum. So it's a recognition of that. And also what's happening, India has reached a point, I think, of a kind of a critical mass. Several things have been happening in India which have led to, better infrastructure and the government policies and all of that. Digital and fintech and all of that. So all of that is now kind of combining into a critical mass, and which is lending itself to a fantastic momentum, which, of course, the global economy, they look at a China which is slowing down. Okay, I think numbers of China today are 5.3 for the last year or this year, right? So when India grows at an estimate of, let's say, 7% or 6.5 or 7.5, that's a huge momentum for such a large population, for the world's largest economy. So,
Absolutely, and that is something that the United States also going there to underline. Thank you so much, Ravinder Sachdeva, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Former diplomat J.K. Tripathi also joining us here on this broadcast. So Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, while he was at the World Economic Forum, spoke of the ties between India and the United States. Interestingly, he talks about under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, India has really been a success story. That is something that we've seen many world powers in the recent past speak of, isn't it?
Yes, not only Anthony Blinken, but earlier it was Trump, and then Sunak, and then French President and not only that, the others, Russian Putin, Australian PM Albanese, almost all the leading leaders of the world, they are of the view, they are in unison that Modi has taken India from a ground level to skies, new heights, and not only them, but you see the financial institutions, the credit ranking institutions like Moody, like Fitch, they are of the view that under the present dispensation, the country's economy will grow steadily, and it will be the fastest growing for the next 5 or 6 years. That means in next 5 years we are going to attain the number 3 position in in terms of the GDP.
Yes.
We will be third largest economy, and then again policies. Present government's policies, especially foreign policy, is not only helping India grow, but it is also as a voice of the global South become the flag bearer for the upliftment of the developing and underdeveloped countries.
Yes.
So
India is that bridge,
something,
and rightly so. That's something that world powers are also now recognizing. J.K. Tripathi, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18 and sharing your perspective. On that note, we're slipping into a quick break here on this edition of Nation at 5, but there's lots more lined up for you on the other side. Don't go anywhere.